At Cyrenians, we have long recognised the important role food plays in achieving our aim, supporting people excluded from family, home, work or community on their life journey. Talking to volunteers at the Fairshare Depot and Royal Edinburgh Community Garden, participants in cooking classes and young people at the farm community reveals stark priorities. We want to share their stories with you.
Simon, Peter, Keith, Alex, Gordon, Gaz and Scott are all living on benefits and volunteering for Fairshare at the food depot as a step towards employment. They all struggle to manage on very low incomes, particularly when sanctions are imposed. When asked what they eat, the answer is crap. Foremost in their mind when they shop is the cheapest way not to go hungry. Gaz describes shopping with a calculator and doing the rounds of several supermarkets to find the cheapest food. Scott says his choices are limited to microwave meals as he doesn't have a cooker. All of the men in the group have a good grasp of what is healthy to eat and talk about things they like to eat as being homemade, big pots of curry or spaghetti bolognese, but they can't afford to cook those sorts of food. All the men in the group eat alone. Some of the men talk about how they used to get together and take it in turns to cook and share a meal at weekends, to do what you would do with a family, but they are unable to cook in this way on their falling incomes. Most don't keep regular meal times and just eat when they are hungry, often eating cereal. All spoke of the importance to them of company as well as simply having food to eat. Loneliness as well as hunger can lead to desperation. Some have experience of eating in soup kitchens or from caravans, and speak of interaction and conversation with others, as well as the food being a saviour. Their experience of emergency food is not simple, and they feel the lack of dignity in being dependent alongside relief. They speak about how good they feel when someone else cooks for them. Scott says it was extra special when his brother cooked a meal for him.
Leanne is attending cooking classes as part of a programme with Centrepoint. She was not cared for as a child and was living rough by the age of 14. She described living in a coal bunker and loving her own place. She had a child by 16. She experienced a number of abusive relationships and her daughter was abused by a friend she trusted and took into her home. She turned to alcohol and drugs. Throughout her chaotic and traumatic life, she has continued to care for her children, albeit with help at times. When asked what she eats, she replied, "Nothing. I hate food." She doesn't eat meals and eats cereal when she has to. The fact that Leanne's daughter now invites her for a home-cooked meal shows that although she has not managed to feel the self-worth to look after herself, she has managed to impart the most fundamental aspect of care to her children. Food is love. For many of the most vulnerable, it isn't. It is the source of neglect. The most basic act of caring for ourselves and others through feeding can be complex and painful.
Davy is recovering from long-term heroin addiction and is volunteering at the Royal Edinburgh Community Garden through referral from Wester Hailes Community Health Initiative. Davy's dad was addictive and emotionally abusive towards his mother, but in many ways this was hidden and the family were well fed and ate round the table. He describes how he got in with the wrong crowd and made the wrong decisions, getting into drugs at the age of 9 or 10. He had been doing well at school and was a talented footballer, but addiction took his potential. He also describes what he eats as crap. Cost is a big factor in shopping, but so too is habit. Davy says it is difficult to have the energy required to think about and cook food which would break bad habits. Davy describes his key worker at Wester Hailes Community Health Initiative as a revelation. She doesn't talk down to him and is helping him make choices to turn his life around. Last year he was a patient in the Royal Edinburgh Hospital. This year he is clean, has given up smoking and is building up his volunteering hours. He is motivated and his priorities are work and a relationship. He recognises the importance of eating better and regular meals in sleeping better, feeling better, and having the energy he needs. He sees it as the next step in making changes in his life, but hasn't done anything yet. He brings his own food to the community garden, although there is a communal meal provided using the garden produce on a Wednesday. Again, he says this is out of habit. When he spoke, he was anxious about the Christmas break, when activities shut down and feared having nothing to do, slipping back into old habits.
Selina and Sharon, key workers at the farm community, describe how sharing responsibility for shopping, preparing and eating food provides structure and routine to life. This is fundamental to recovery and the ability to manage independently for the young people who stay there. They also describe how many of the young people who come to live on the farm will hoard and hide food in their rooms, although there is plenty. Some young people need to exert control through the way they eat. One young man, for example, eating only one bowl of pasta at the same time every day. It can take a long time to trust that there will be food on the table and those around you to share. For a long time, one young man continued to eat cold food from cans and would return to a soup kitchen, although he did not want for food on the farm. He said he liked it there, perhaps because the food was prepared for him, and perhaps because it was the first place he experienced someone looking after him. In contrast to many of the young people on the farm, Annie comes from a middle-class and caring upbringing in Zimbabwe. She has suffered with mental health issues, including episodes of manic depression, which make independent living difficult. She described her experience of moving into her own flat after a period of living on the farm. She found budgeting on benefits stressful. The kinds of things which they were able to buy cheaply in large quantities on the farm were too expensive to buy for one at her nearest supermarket, a Tesco Metro. Annie found it frustrating not to be able to buy healthy and environmentally sustainable foods. Beyond not having enough of the food she wanted, loneliness was particularly difficult and was a key factor in her not maintaining her tenancy and returning to the farm. Annie is passionate about others being able to benefit in the way she has, from education, a strong connection to where food comes from, and sharing food. Fundamentally, these stories tell us that for the most vulnerable and excluded people in our communities, what is important is something to eat and someone to eat with.